I used to think I was fluent in English. I had a vast vocabulary, aced grammar tests, and could discuss complex topics. But then, I found myself in a London pub, listening to a group of locals, and I genuinely thought they were speaking a different language. They weren't using long, complicated words. They were using simple words I knew perfectly well, like put, get, or take, but in ways that made absolutely no sense to me. "We should put the meeting off," one said. Another replied, "I need to get my point across more effectively." I just nodded and smiled, completely lost. That was the day I discovered the secret handshake of advanced English fluency, phrasal verbs. And that's exactly what we're going to master together. This isn't just another English lesson. This is your key to unlocking a level of understanding and expression that will make you sound not just proficient, but natural, nuanced, and truly advanced. Think of phrasal verbs as the magic ingredient, the spice that transforms a bland, textbook sentence into a lively, authentic expression. They are the difference between saying "I will continue" and "I will carry on." Between tolerate and put up with. They are everywhere, especially in spoken English, business meetings, films, and novels. If you ignore them, you're missing a huge part of the language's soul. But here's the crucial insight that most learners miss: the goal is not to memorize a giant list. The goal is to understand the logic behind them. Phrasal verbs are not random. They are built on a powerful system of particles, those little words like up, down, in, out, on, off, away, through. These particles carry core meanings that, when combined with a verb, create a new, often metaphorical, meaning. For example, the particle up often suggests completion or increase. So, eat becomes eat up, meaning to eat completely. Clean becomes clean up, meaning to make completely clean. Speed becomes speed up, meaning to increase speed. See the pattern? We will break down these patterns so you can figure out new phrasal verbs you encounter, instead of always having to look them up. In this series, we will move beyond the basics. We won't be focusing on get up or turn on the light. We will delve into the sophisticated, high-level phrasal verbs that native speakers use constantly in professional and academic settings. Verbs like to piece together information, to hammer out an agreement, or to cave into pressure. We will explore their nuances, their multiple meanings, and how to use them with confidence. So, if you're ready to stop feeling lost in conversations and start expressing yourself with the clarity and color of a native speaker, you're in the right place. Let's dive in and start building up your advanced fluency, one powerful phrasal verb at a time. Our journey begins now, by first understanding why these little phrases are so incredibly powerful and how changing a single particle can completely alter the meaning of a sentence, sometimes with embarrassing consequences. Let me tell you, you do not want to confuse look up to someone with look down on them. That example of look up to and look down on perfectly illustrates how a simple particle can flip the meaning from admiration to contempt. It's this subtle power that makes mastering phrasal verbs essential for advanced fluency. Let me share a story from my early days of teaching English. A student once told me, "I need to make up my mind about which university to attend." I was thrilled she used a phrasal verb correctly. But then she added, "And after I decide, I'll have to make up a story for my application essay." I had to gently explain that while make up your mind means to decide, make up a story means to invent or fabricate, which isn't the best approach for an application. This highlights another critical layer: many phrasal verbs have multiple, often unrelated meanings. Context is king, and we'll learn to navigate these nuances together. Now, let's delve into the heart of the matter. Why do native speakers gravitate towards phrasal verbs even when a single, more formal word exists? It's about tone, efficiency, and imagery. Saying the negotiations broke down is far more vivid and concise than the negotiation ceased progress due to irreconcilable differences. The phrasal verb paints a picture of collapse, of something fracturing. It's immediate and emotional. Similarly, let's iron out the details evokes the smoothing of wrinkles, making the process feel more manageable than let's resolve the minor issues. This imagery is embedded in the particles. Out often implies revealing, extending, or eliminating. Think of figure out, solve, rule out, eliminate, or spread out, extend. By internalizing these core concepts, you start to think in English, not just translate from your native language. Today, we'll focus on 3 essential particles that form the backbone of countless advanced phrasal verbs: up, down, and through. We've touched on up meaning completion. Now, consider down. It frequently conveys a sense of reduction, defeat, or recording. For example, when you calm down, you reduce your agitation. When a computer system breaks down, it reduces to a state of failure. When you note down something, you record it on paper. Then there's through, which powerfully suggests completion, often despite difficulty. When you follow through on a promise, you complete the action. When you read through a document, you read it completely. And when you go through a difficult experience, you endure it to the end. Let's practice with a high-level phrasal verb, to weigh up. This means to carefully consider and evaluate the pros and cons of something. It's more nuanced than just think about. For instance, before accepting the job offer, I need to weigh up the benefits against the longer commute. Notice how up gives a sense of gathering all the factors together to assess them. Another great one is to back down, meaning to withdraw a claim or demand in the face of opposition. The company was forced to back down from its price increase after customer complaints. Here, down clearly indicates a retreat from a position. Remember, the goal isn't speed, it's integration. Try using one new phrasal verb today in a sentence. You might actually say, "Maybe, I need to think through this proposal before the meeting." You're not just learning words, you're learning a new way of expressing thought. In our next part, we'll tackle the challenge of separable and inseparable phrasal verbs, a grammar point that trips up many advanced learners. It's easier than you think, and I'll show you why. I ended our last session by hinting at a grammar point that often causes confusion even for advanced learners: separable and inseparable phrasal verbs. Now, I know the terms might sound intimidating, but trust me, once you grasp the concept, it will become second nature. Think of it this way: knowing whether a phrasal verb is separable or inseparable is like knowing whether to say "I gave him the book" or "I gave the book to him." It's a matter of word order that can make your speech sound perfectly natural or slightly off. And the good news is, there's a logical way to approach this. Let me break it down. A phrasal verb consists of a verb and a particle. Sometimes, that particle can be separated from the verb by an object. For example, take the phrasal verb turn down, meaning to reject. You can say, "I turned down the offer." But you can also say, "I turned the offer down." Both are correct. The object, the offer, can come between the verb and the particle. This is a separable phrasal verb. However, with inseparable phrasal verbs, the object must always come after the particle. For instance, look after meaning to take care of. You can only say, "I look after my younger sister." You cannot say, I look my younger sister after. That would be incorrect and sound very strange to a native speaker. So, how can you tell which is which? Here's a practical tip. Phrasal verbs that are made up of a verb and an adverb particle are often separable. These particles like up, down, in, out, on, off can usually be separated from the verb by a noun object. But when the particle is a preposition, like after, for, into, with, the phrasal verb is usually inseparable. Prepositions need to be followed by their object immediately. This isn't a hard and fast rule, but it's a reliable guideline. For example, run into someone, meaning to meet unexpectedly, is inseparable because into is a preposition. You say, I ran into an old friend, not I ran an old friend into. Why does this matter? Because using the wrong word order can lead to misunderstandings or make your English sound awkward. Imagine telling your boss, I need to put off the meeting, which is correct for postpone. But if you say, I need to put the meeting off, it's still correct. However, if you try to separate an inseparable verb, like saying I came a great idea across, instead of I came across a great idea, it becomes gibberish. The meaning of discover is lost. Let's practice with a high-level separable phrasal verb, to hammer out, meaning to negotiate and reach an agreement after difficult discussion. You can say, the teams hammered out a deal, or the teams hammered a deal out. Both are acceptable. Now, an inseparable one, to account for, meaning to explain or be the reason for. You must say, how do you account for the discrepancy? You cannot separate account and for. The key is exposure and practice. Listen for these patterns in movies and podcasts. When you learn a new phrasal verb, make a note of its separability. It might seem like a small detail, but it's these subtle refinements that elevate your fluency from good to great. In the next part, we'll explore phrasal verbs that have multiple meanings and how context is your best friend in deciphering them. You'll be surprised how many layers a simple combination like take up can have. As promised, we're now moving into one of the most fascinating aspects of phrasal verbs, their ability to wear multiple hats. A single combination like take up can mean entirely different things depending on the context, and this is where your detective skills come into play. Let me share a moment of confusion I experienced early on. I heard someone say, I decided to take up photography. I thought they meant they were physically lifting a camera, but no, they meant they were starting a new hobby. Then, in a meeting, someone said, this project will take up too much time. Here, it meant to consume or occupy. And later, a friend complained, the sofa takes up too much space in the living room. Again, occupy. But wait, there's more. In a tailoring context, I need to take up these trousers means to shorten them. See how one phrasal verb can span hobbies, time management, spatial concerns, and clothing alterations? This isn't an exception, it's the rule for many of these versatile phrases. The key to navigating this multiplicity is never to panic. Instead, train yourself to lean heavily on context. The words surrounding the phrasal verb are your best clues. If someone talks about taking up a sport, it's likely about starting it. If they mention taking up an issue, it could mean adopting a cause or discussing it formally. This contextual dependence is actually a strength of English, allowing for rich, concise expression. Think of breakdown. We've mentioned it meaning negotiations failing, but it can also mean a car malfunctioning, a person emotionally collapsing, or chemically decomposing something. The car broke down on the highway is clear from the subject. She broke down in tears is clear from the emotional cue. Your brain is already good at this, you just need to apply it consciously to phrasal verbs. Here's a practical strategy: when you encounter a new phrasal verb, don't just learn one definition. Explore its most common uses. For take up, the core idea is often about beginning, accepting, or occupying. From there, the specific meaning crystallizes based on what follows. This approach is far more effective than rote memorization. Let's try another high-level example: come across. It can mean to find something unexpectedly, as in I came across an old letter while cleaning. But it can also mean to be perceived in a certain way, as in he comes across as very confident. The meaning shifts from discovering to impressing, yet the particle across carries a sense of traversal or revelation in both cases. Mastering these nuances is what separates advanced learners from native-like speakers. It allows you to understand subtle jokes, follow complex narratives, and express yourself with precision. For instance, saying I need to cut back on sugar is more natural than I need to reduce my sugar consumption. But cutback can also apply to spending, work hours, or any activity. The context makes it specific. So, as you listen and read, start collecting these multiple meanings. Keep a journal where you note down different uses for the same phrasal verb. This active engagement will solidify your understanding. In our next session, we'll tackle a group of phrasal verbs that are essential for professional and academic success, those related to thinking, analyzing, and problem-solving. We'll explore how to piece together information, think through consequences, and work out solutions. These are the tools that will help you articulate complex thoughts with ease. Moving from the concept of multiple meanings, let's now focus on a set of phrasal verbs that are absolute power tools for your mind, those that articulate the processes of thinking, analyzing, and problem-solving. These are the verbs that will allow you to describe your intellectual journey with precision, whether you're in a boardroom brainstorming session, writing an academic paper, or simply figuring out your next move in life. I remember once working on a complex project where data was coming in from various sources. My manager didn't say analyze the information, she said, we need to piece together what's happening. That phrase evoked an image of a puzzle, making the task feel more manageable and collaborative. It's this kind of expressive power we're after. Let's start with piece together. This means to gradually understand a story or a situation by collecting and combining various pieces of information. It implies detective work. For example, by reading the emails and reports, I managed to piece together the sequence of events that led to the system failure. Notice how it suggests a process of assembly. Then there's think through, which we've touched on, but it deserves emphasis. It means to consider all the possible aspects or consequences of an action carefully. It's deeper than just think about. Before we respond to the client's complaint, we need to think through the implications of each option. This verb encourages thoroughness. Another indispensable one is work out. While it can mean to exercise physically, in a cognitive sense, it means to find a solution or to understand something by thinking about it. I need to work out the best way to allocate the budget. Or, I can't work out why the application keeps crashing. It's about problem solving. Similarly, figure out is a close cousin, often used interchangeably, though workout might sound slightly more formal in some contexts. We need to figure out how to increase engagement on our platform. But analysis isn't just about solving problems, it's about breaking them down. That's where breakdown comes in, but this time in a positive, methodological sense. To understand the market, we should break down the data into smaller segments. Here, breakdown means to separate something into smaller parts to make it easier to understand or manage. This is different from when negotiations break down, meaning fail. Again, context is king. For evaluating options, we have weigh up, which we discussed earlier, meaning to assess the advantages and disadvantages. The committee is weighing up the proposals before making a decision. And when you need to consider something quickly or informally, you might mull over an idea. I'll mull over your suggestion and get back to you tomorrow. It suggests quiet contemplation. Incorporating these verbs into your vocabulary will transform how you express complex thoughts. Instead of saying, "I need to analyze this," you can say, "I need to break this down and work out a solution." This layered expression sounds more natural and dynamic. Practice by describing a recent problem you solved. Did you piece together clues? Did you think through the outcomes? Use these verbs to narrate the process. In the next part, we'll shift gears to phrasal verbs that describe interpersonal dynamics, how we interact with others, from collaborating to conflicting. These are crucial for mastering the social fabric of English, whether you're networking, managing a team, or navigating everyday conversations. You'll learn how to get along with people, stand up for your ideas, and even fall out with a colleague. Having equipped ourselves with the phrasal verbs for internal thought processes, it's time to turn our attention outward to the complex world of human relationships. Mastering the language of interpersonal dynamics is where your fluency truly comes to life, allowing you to describe collaborations, conflicts, and everything in between with nuance and authenticity. I recall a team project where two colleagues simply couldn't see eye to eye. They didn't just disagree, they constantly butted heads. That simple phrase captured the repetitive, clashing nature of their conflict far better than any formal word. This is the power of phrasal verbs in social contexts. They convey emotion and subtlety. Let's start with collaboration. To get along with someone is fundamental. It means to have a friendly relationship. But advanced fluency involves more depth. For instance, team up with implies a strategic alliance for a specific purpose. We should team up with the marketing department to launch the product. It's proactive and goal-oriented. Similarly, band together suggests a group uniting for mutual support, often against a challenge. The community banded together to clean up the park after the storm. These verbs paint a picture of unity. But what about when disagreements arise? Fallout with someone means to have a disagreement that damages the relationship. She fell out with her business partner over financial decisions. It's more serious than a simple argument, it implies a rift. Then there's make up with, which means to reconcile after a quarrel. I'm glad they made up with each other after their disagreement. Notice how up here suggests restoration or completion. Asserting yourself is another key area. To stand up for your beliefs means to defend them courageously. You must learn to stand up for yourself in negotiations. Conversely, to give in to pressure means to yield. The government refused to give in to the demands of the protesters. This pair shows the push and pull of advocacy and compromise. Then we have verbs that describe how we perceive others. To look up to someone is to admire and respect them, as we've mentioned. But to put up with someone or something means to tolerate it, often with irritation. I don't know how she puts up with his constant lateness. The particle up with here implies enduring something unpleasant. Another subtle one is get through to someone, meaning to successfully make them understand your point. I finally got through to him about the importance of deadlines. In professional settings, phrasal verbs like report to, be accountable to, and answer for, be responsible for, are crucial. You will report to the department head. He must answer for the project's failure. These establish hierarchy and accountability. Practicing these verbs will make your descriptions of relationships vivid and precise. Try recounting a recent interaction. Did you get along with everyone? Did you have to stand up for an idea? By weaving these into your daily language, you'll sound more natural and insightful. Next, we'll explore phrasal verbs that are essential for discussing change and development, how things start, evolve, and end. We'll look at how ideas catch on, plans fall through, and trends die out. Transitioning from the dynamics of relationships, we now enter the realm of change and development, an area where phrasal verbs truly shine in capturing the fluidity of progress and decline. I remember launching a new initiative at work. We were hopeful, but we didn't know if it would catch on or fizzle out. That uncertainty is at the heart of discussing evolution, and having the right verbs allows you to articulate these nuances with precision. Let's explore how to describe the life cycle of ideas, projects, and trends. First, consider catch on. This means to become popular or fashionable. It often implies a gradual process of acceptance. For example, the new software feature began to catch on after we demonstrated its benefits to early users. The particle on suggests adhesion, like something sticking in the public consciousness. Conversely, when something fails to gain traction, it might fizzle out, meaning to gradually lose energy and come to an end. The enthusiasm for the project fizzled out when funding was cut. Here, out implies expiration or depletion. Another key verb is take off, which means to suddenly become very successful or popular. It evokes an image of rapid ascent, like an airplane. Her career really took off after she published that groundbreaking research. This is different from catch-on because takeoff suggests a quicker, more dramatic rise. But success isn't always sustained. Things can die out, meaning to become extinct or disappear completely. Many traditional crafts are dying out due to modernization. Die out emphasizes a slow, inevitable cessation. When plans fail to materialize, we say they fall through. This implies a collapse or failure after expectations were set. Our vacation plans fell through at the last minute because of a family emergency. The particle through here suggests something passing without completion, like falling through a hole. On the flip side, when you overcome obstacles, you break through. After months of research, the team finally broke through and found a solution. Breakthrough conveys a sense of penetrating a barrier. For intentional changes, we have phase out, meaning to gradually discontinue something. The company decided to phase out the old model in favor of the new one. This is a controlled process. And sometimes, we wind up in a situation, meaning to end up there, often unexpectedly. If we don't plan carefully, we might wind up exceeding our budget. Wind up can imply a conclusion that wasn't necessarily intended. Using these verbs helps you describe change dynamically. Instead of saying the trend became popular, say the trend caught on. Instead of the project failed, say the project fell through. This adds vitality to your speech. Practice by reflecting on recent changes in your life or work. Did a new habit catch on? Did a plan fall through? Incorporate these verbs into your stories. In the next part, we'll tackle phrasal verbs related to communication, how we convey ideas, persuade others, and clarify misunderstandings. These are vital for effective dialogue, whether in writing or speaking. We'll learn how to get across a message, talk someone into something, and clear up confusion. Building on our discussion of change, let's now dive into the lifeblood of human interaction, communication. The ability to express ideas clearly, persuade others, and untangle misunderstandings is where phrasal verbs become indispensable. I'll never forget the first time I had to present a complex idea to a skeptical audience. I didn't just explain it, I had to get my point across effectively. That's the difference between being heard and being understood. Phrasal verbs give you the tools to navigate these nuances with finesse. Let's start with conveying ideas. To get across something means to make it understood or communicated clearly. It's about successful transmission. For instance, I use simple diagrams to get the message across to the diverse group. The particles across suggest bridging a gap, moving an idea from one mind to another. Similarly, to spell out means to explain something in a very clear and detailed way, leaving no room for confusion. The manager had to spell out the new procedures for everyone. It implies meticulous clarity, as if spelling a word letter by letter. But communication isn't just about clarity, it's about influence. To talk someone into something means to persuade them to do it. She talked me into joining the committee. Notice how into implies movement towards a decision or action. Conversely, to talk someone out of something means to discourage them from doing it. I tried to talk him out of quitting his job. These verbs capture the dynamic of persuasion. Another powerful one is win over, meaning to gain someone's support or approval. We need to win over the stakeholders with our proposal. It suggests a gradual process of convincing. Then there's the challenge of misunderstanding. To clear up a misunderstanding means to resolve it or make it clear. Let's meet to clear up any confusion about the project timeline. Clear up evokes the image of fog dissipating, bringing clarity. If you need to correct someone politely, you might point out an error. I should point out that there's a mistake in the report. It's diplomatic and direct. In discussions, we often bring up a topic, meaning to introduce it for conversation. He brought up an important issue during the meeting. And if a conversation becomes too intense, you might need to cool down the situation. We took a break to cool things down. This uses down to reduce emotional heat. Listening is equally important. To tune out means to stop listening, often unintentionally. I'm sorry, I tuned out for a moment. Could you repeat that? It's like adjusting a radio away from a station. Conversely, to zero in on something means to focus intensely. Let's zero in on the key factors affecting our sales. Zero in suggests precision targeting. Incorporating these verbs will make your communication more dynamic and effective. Instead of saying I explained it, try I got it across. Instead of I persuaded him, say I talked him into it. Practice by recalling a recent conversation. Did you need to clear up a misunderstanding? Did you bring up a sensitive topic? Use these verbs to refine your stories. In the next part, we'll explore phrasal verbs related to challenges and obstacles, how we face difficulties, overcome setbacks, and persist against odds. You'll learn how to face up to problems, press on despite adversity, and get through tough times. These verbs build resilience in your language. Moving from the intricacies of communication, we now arrive at a universal aspect of life, facing challenges. How we talk about obstacles reveals our resilience and mindset. I recall a period when my business faced significant financial difficulties. It was tempting to avoid the issue, but I had to face up to the reality of the situation. That phrase alone carried a weight of acknowledgement and courage that simply saying accept did not capture. Phrasal verbs for challenges empower us to describe our struggles and triumphs with vivid accuracy, transforming vague anxieties into manageable narratives. Let's begin with confrontation. To face up to a problem means to accept it and deal with it bravely, rather than avoiding it. It's about emotional and mental courage. For example, after years of denial, he finally faced up to his fear of public speaking. The particles up to imply moving towards something daunting with resolve. Similarly, to stand up to someone or something means to defend yourself against opposition or pressure. The employees stood up to the unfair new policies. Here, up to suggests resistance and assertiveness. Once we confront a challenge, we need perseverance. To press on or soldier on means to continue determinedly despite difficulties. Even though we were exhausted, we pressed on with the journey. Press on evokes a sense of pushing forward against resistance. Soldier on adds a layer of enduring like a soldier, with discipline and grit. Another key verb is push through, which often implies overcoming bureaucratic or procedural hurdles. We managed to push through the reforms despite opposition. Through suggests breaking a barrier to completion. Endurance is crucial. To get through a difficult time means to survive it or manage to cope until it ends. With support from friends, I got through the loss of my job. Get through focuses on the process of enduring from start to finish. When we recover from setbacks, we get over them. It took me months to get over the disappointment. Over implies moving past something, leaving it behind. But not all efforts succeed. Sometimes we give up, meaning to stop trying. However, even this verb has nuance. I gave up smoking is positive, while I gave up on my dream is negative. The context defines the outcome. Before giving up, we might struggle with or grapple with a problem, meaning to engage with it with great effort. I've been grappling with this complex math problem for hours. Grapple with paints a picture of a physical tussle. For initiating effort against challenges, we buckle down, meaning to start working seriously. With exams approaching, it's time to buckle down and study. Buckle down suggests fastening oneself to the task. And when we succeed, we rise to the occasion, meaning to meet the challenge effectively. The team rose to the challenge and delivered an exceptional project. Rise to conveys elevation and meeting a standard. Using these verbs allows you to articulate your journey through difficulties with precision. Instead of I continued despite problems, say I pressed on. Instead of I dealt with my fears, say I faced up to them. This language not only communicates your experience but also shapes your perspective, reinforcing a proactive mindset. In the next part, we'll explore phrasal verbs related to discovery and investigation, how we uncover information, explore possibilities, and delve into mysteries. You'll learn how to stumble upon clues, look into issues, and dig up facts. These verbs are essential for curious minds and effective researchers. After discussing how we face challenges, it's natural to explore how we uncover the truths that often lie beneath those challenges. Discovery and investigation are fundamental to progress, whether in science, business, or daily life. I remember once trying to understand why a website kept crashing. I didn't just search for answers, I had to dig up old server logs and look into every possible cause. That process of investigation was filled with phrasal verbs that precisely captured each step of the journey. These verbs turn the act of searching into a dynamic story of exploration. Let's start with accidental discovery. To stumble upon something means to find it by chance or unexpectedly. It evokes a sense of serendipity, like tripping over a treasure. For example, while cleaning the attic, I stumbled upon a box of my grandfather's old letters. The particles upon give it a formal, almost literary feel, emphasizing the unexpected nature. Similarly, to come across something, which we've touched on, also means to find unexpectedly, but it's more common in everyday speech. I came across a fascinating article while researching online. When discovery is intentional, we often look into something, meaning to investigate or examine it. This is a versatile verb used in both casual and formal contexts. The company will look into the customer complaints. It implies a preliminary inquiry. For a more thorough investigation, we might dig into or dig up information. Dig into suggests delving deeply into a subject. We need to dig into the data to find patterns. Whereas dig up often implies uncovering something hidden or forgotten. The journalist dug up some shocking facts about the scandal. The particle up here brings things to the surface. Another key verb is find out, which means to discover a fact or piece of information. It's one of the most common phrasal verbs for discovery. I need to find out when the meeting starts. It can be used in various tenses and contexts. When information is revealed after search, it turns up. New evidence turned up during the audit. Turn up suggests something appearing or being found, often after not being visible. For exploring possibilities, we check out something, meaning to examine it to see if it is interesting or true. You should check out that new cafe, it's great. It can also mean to investigate a person or place. The police checked out his alibi. Additionally, to figure out is crucial for solving mysteries or understanding complex issues. It took me hours to figure out how the software works. Figure out implies reasoning and problem solving. In academic or research contexts, we bone up on a topic, meaning to study it intensively, often for a test or presentation. I need to bone up on my French before the trip. This is informal but vivid. For verifying information, we double-check or look up details. I'll look up the address to make sure it's correct. Look up is perfect for consulting references. Using these verbs makes your language more active and descriptive. Instead of saying I investigated the issue, say I looked into the issue. Instead of I discovered an error, try I stumbled upon an error. This adds color and specificity to your stories. In the next part, we'll shift to phrasal verbs related to time and schedule, how we manage our days, delay tasks, or meet deadlines. You'll learn how to put off chores, catch up on work, and run out of time. These are essential for navigating the busy modern world. Time management is a universal challenge, and how we talk about it can reveal our priorities and pressures. I'll never forget the week I had 3 major deadlines looming. I kept putting off the hardest task until I almost ran out of time. That frantic scramble taught me the importance of not just managing time, but mastering the language to describe it effectively. Phrasal verbs for time and schedules are incredibly practical, weaving into our daily conversations with ease and precision. They help us articulate our relationship with time in a way that single verbs often cannot. Let's start with procrastination, a common habit. To put off something means to delay or postpone it. It's that intentional avoidance we all know too well. For example, I keep putting off doing my taxes because it's so tedious. The particles off suggest pushing something away from the present moment. Similarly, to hold off means to wait before doing something, often for a good reason. Let's hold off on making a decision until we have more data. Hold off implies a temporary pause, whereas put off can carry a negative connotation of avoidance. When we fall behind, we need to catch up on work or tasks, meaning to do work that we should have done earlier. I need to catch up on my emails after being on vacation. The phrase catch up evokes the idea of reaching a point that others are already at, and unspecifies the task. Conversely, if we are ahead of schedule, we might get ahead of ourselves, meaning to plan or act too soon, which can be risky. Don't get ahead of yourself, let's finish this phase first. Deadlines are critical. To run out of time means to have no time left. We ran out of time before we could discuss the final point. It's a vivid way to say time has expired. When we manage to complete something just before the deadline, we make it in time. I barely made it in time for the meeting. Another common one is work against the clock, which means to work hurriedly to finish before time runs out. We're working against the clock to get this report done. Scheduling involves arranging time. To fit in an appointment means to find time for it despite a busy schedule. I can fit in a quick call at 3 p.m. Fit in suggests squeezing something into an already packed timeline. To set aside time means to reserve it for a specific purpose. I set aside 2 hours each morning for creative work. Set aside implies intentional allocation. Changes in plans are inevitable. When something is delayed, it falls behind schedule. The project is falling behind due to unexpected issues. If we need to extend a deadline, we might push back the date. We had to push back the launch to next month. Pushback conveys rescheduling to a later time. Finally, reflecting on time use is important. To look back on a period means to reflect on it. When I look back on last year, I realize how much I've accomplished. And to plan ahead means to prepare for the future. It's wise to plan ahead for retirement. Using these verbs makes discussions about time dynamic. Instead of I delayed the task, say I put it off. Instead of I have no time left, try I've run out of time. This adds fluency to your everyday language. In the next part, we'll explore phrasal verbs related to emotions and states of being, how we express feelings, moods, and personal changes. You'll learn how to cheer up a friend, calm down after stress, and open up about feelings. These verbs enrich our emotional vocabulary. Emotions are the color of our lives, and how we express them can define our relationships and our own well-being. I recall a time when a close friend was going through a rough patch. I didn't just try to make her happy, I wanted to cheer her up in a way that felt genuine. But I also knew that sometimes, people need to open up at their own pace. That delicate balance taught me that phrasal verbs for emotions aren't just vocabulary, they're tools for empathy, allowing us to navigate the subtle shades of human feelings with grace and precision. These verbs help us articulate states of being that single words often fail to capture, making our conversations more heartfelt and authentic. Let's start with uplifting emotions. To cheer up means to make someone feel happier or more hopeful. It's an active verb that implies effort and care. For example, I brought her some flowers to cheer her up after a difficult day. Notice how it can be used transitively with an object. Similarly, to perk up means to become more cheerful or energetic, often suddenly. He perked up when he heard the good news. It's like a quick boost of mood. Another positive verb is light up, which means to become bright with excitement or happiness. Her face lit up when she saw the surprise. But life isn't always sunny, we have down moments too. To feel down means to be sad or depressed. It's a common and gentle way to express low spirits. I've been feeling down since the project ended. For a more intense sadness, we might break down emotionally, meaning to lose control of our feelings, often crying. She broke down in tears during the conversation. This shows how breakdown can apply to emotions as well as machines or negotiations. Managing negative emotions is crucial. To calm down means to become less agitated, angry, or excited. I needed to calm down after the stressful meeting. It's often used in imperative form to soothe others. Calm down, everything will be okay. When we suppress emotions, we bottle them up, which means to hide our feelings, often leading to pressure. Don't bottle up your emotions, talk to someone. Conversely, when we share freely, we open up. It took time for him to open up about his fears. Open up suggests vulnerability and trust. Some phrasal verbs describe the process of developing emotions. To work up something means to gradually develop it, like courage or enthusiasm. I had to work up the courage to ask for a raise. It implies a build-up of energy. On the flip side, to freak out means to panic or become very upset, often irrationally. I freaked out when I realized I lost my phone. It's informal but vivid for describing sudden fear or anxiety. For resolving emotions, we get over something, meaning to recover from an upsetting experience. It took weeks to get over the disappointment. And when we disappoint others, we let them down. I hope I don't let you down with my decision. This verb captures the weight of expectation and failure. Incorporating these into daily use will make your emotional expressions more nuanced. Instead of I was sad, say I was feeling down. Instead of I made her happy, try I cheered her up. Practice by reflecting on recent emotional experiences. Did you need to calm down? Did someone open up to you? Use these verbs to tell the story. In the next part, we'll dive into phrasal verbs for social interactions and events, how we manage gatherings, meetings, and casual encounters. You'll learn how to show up to parties, kick off an event, and wind down after a long day. These verbs are key to describing the rhythm of social life. Social interactions are the fabric of our daily lives, from casual gatherings to formal events, and the phrasal verbs we use to describe them add a layer of authenticity and fluency that textbook English often misses. I remember organizing my first large team-building event. I was nervous about whether people would show up, how to kick off the activities smoothly, and how to ensure everyone could wind down and enjoy themselves. That experience taught me that mastering these verbs isn't just about vocabulary, it's about navigating social nuances with confidence. Let's explore the phrasal verbs that bring our social narratives to life. Starting with arrival, to show up is essential. It means to arrive or appear at a place, often with an implication of presence rather than just physical arrival. For example, over 50 people showed up to the charity event, which was a great turnout. It's casual and commonly used. Similarly, to turn up can mean the same thing, though it might carry a more informal or unexpected tone. He turned up at the party uninvited. But note, turn up can also mean to increase volume, so context is key. When an event begins, we often kick off something, meaning to start it, especially in a lively or energetic way. The conference kicked off with an inspiring keynote speech. This verb comes from sports, like kicking off a football game, and it injects energy into the description. For more formal starts, we might set up an event, which means to arrange or prepare it. We need to set up the meeting room before the guests arrive. Setup focuses on the preparation phase. During social interactions, we might meet up with friends, meaning to gather together. Let's meet up with the others after work. It implies a planned gathering. If we introduce people, we bring them together. I brought together colleagues from different departments to collaborate. This phrase emphasizes facilitation. As events progress, we might break the ice, which means to relieve tension or start a conversation in a social setting. She told a joke to break the ice at the networking event. While not a phrasal verb in the traditional sense, it's a crucial idiom for social contexts. For mingling, we get around meaning to move among people socially. I tried to get around and talk to everyone at the reception. When it's time to leave, we head off or take off, both meaning to depart. I have to head off early to catch my train. Take off is more informal. It's late, I should take off. And after everyone leaves, we wind down, meaning to relax after excitement or effort. After the guests left, we wound down with a quiet drink. Wind down perfectly captures the gradual shift from activity to calm. Sometimes, events don't go as planned. If someone backs out, they withdraw from a commitment. He backed out of the presentation at the last minute. Or if an event is cancelled, it falls through. Our picnic fell through because of the rain. These verbs help manage expectations. For successful interactions, we hit it off with someone, meaning to get along well immediately. I hit it off with my new neighbor, we have so much in common. This phrase is ideal for describing instant connections. Incorporating these verbs into your stories will make them more vibrant. Instead of I arrived at the party, say I showed up at the party. Instead of the event started, try the event kicked off. Practice by describing a recent social event. Who did you meet up with? Did you hit it off with anyone? How did you wind down? In the next part, we'll focus on phrasal verbs for business and professional contexts, how we manage projects, negotiate deals, and achieve goals. You'll learn how to follow up on leads, step down from a position, and cash in on opportunities. These verbs are vital for career advancement. Transitioning from the social sphere to the professional world, we enter a domain where precision and nuance in language can directly impact success. I learned this the hard way during my first major business negotiation. I thought I was prepared, but when my counterpart said they needed to follow up on a point, I misinterpreted it as a delay, not realizing it was a standard step in the process. That moment highlighted how essential it is to master the phrasal verbs that drive business communication. These verbs are the unsung heroes of boardrooms, emails, and strategic plans, allowing you to articulate complex ideas with clarity and confidence. Let's delve into the phrasal verbs that can elevate your professional English from competent to compelling. First, consider follow-up. This means to pursue something further or to check on progress after an initial action. It's crucial for maintaining momentum. For example, after the meeting, I will follow up with an email summarizing the key points. The particles up here suggest advancement or continuation. Similarly, touch base is a related idiom meaning to make contact briefly. Let's touch base next week to discuss the project status. Both are essential for effective project management. When it comes to leadership changes, step down means to resign from a position, often voluntarily. The CEO decided to step down after 10 years of service. Down indicates a movement away from authority. Conversely, take over means to assume control or responsibility. She will take over as department head next month. Takeover implies a seamless or planned transition. Another key verb is handover, which means to transfer responsibility to someone else. I need to hand over the files to my successor before I leave. In negotiations and planning, draw up means to prepare a document or plan formally. Our lawyers will draw up the contract by Friday. It suggests careful drafting. To iron out difficulties means to resolve them, especially in agreements. We need to iron out the final details before signing. This evokes smoothing wrinkles, making it vivid. When seizing opportunities, cash in on means to profit from or take advantage of a situation. The company cashed in on the holiday season with a successful marketing campaign. Cash in on often implies leveraging a trend or event. Dealing with challenges is part of business. Deal with is a versatile verb meaning to handle or manage a situation. We must deal with these customer complaints promptly. For more persistent issues, work through suggests methodically addressing problems. The team worked through the logistical challenges to meet the deadline. Through implies perseverance to completion. If a project fails, it might fall through, as we've seen, but in business, scale back means to reduce size or scope. Due to budget cuts, we had to scale back our expansion plans. Scale back is a strategic reduction. For innovation and development, branch out means to expand into new areas. The company is branching out into international markets. It brings to mind a tree growing new branches. And when evaluating success, measure up to means to meet a standard or expectation. The product did not measure up to customer expectations. This verb is key for quality assessment. Incorporating these verbs into your professional vocabulary will make your communication more dynamic. Instead of "I will contact you later," say "I will follow up." Instead of "I resigned," try "I stepped down." Practice by describing a recent work scenario. Did you hand over a task? Did you iron out a disagreement? Use these verbs to refine your stories. In the next part, we'll explore phrasal verbs related to travel and movement, how we navigate spaces, journeys, and transitions. You'll learn how to set off on a trip, check into a hotel, and get away with a vacation. These verbs add motion to your narratives. There's nothing quite like the thrill of travel, the anticipation of new places, the chaos of airports, and the freedom of the open road. But have you ever noticed how much of that experience is captured through phrasal verbs? I remember planning a solo trip across Europe. I had to set off early, check into hostels, and get away from it all to clear my mind. That journey taught me that phrasal verbs for movement are not just about physical displacement, they're about the journey itself, with all its twists and turns. Mastering these verbs will allow you to describe your adventures with the vividness of a seasoned traveler, making your stories come alive for anyone who listens. Let's start with the beginning of a journey. To set off means to start a trip. It implies a deliberate departure, often with excitement. For example, we set off at dawn to avoid the traffic. The particles "off" suggest a launch into motion. Similarly, to head off means to leave for a destination. I'm heading off to the airport now. It's casual and commonly used. Another great one is take off, which specifically refers to airplanes departing. Our flight takes off in an hour. But take off can also mean to become successful quickly, as we've seen, so context is key. Once you arrive, you might check into a hotel or accommodation, meaning to register upon arrival. After a long flight, I checked into my hotel and collapsed. Conversely, when you leave, you check out of the place. We need to check out by 11 a.m. These verbs are essential for navigating stays. If you're exploring, you might look around a city, meaning to explore it casually. We spent the afternoon looking around the old town. It suggests leisurely discovery. For longer journeys, you might get away, meaning to go on vacation or escape from routine. I need to get away for a few days to relax. Get away often implies a break from stress. If you're moving between places, you move on from one location to the next. After 3 days in Paris, we moved on to Rome. Move on can also mean to progress emotionally, but in travel, it's about physical movement. Sometimes, travel involves obstacles. If you run into delays, it means you encounter them unexpectedly. We ran into bad weather on the road. Run into can also mean to meet someone by chance, so again, context matters. If you need to avoid something, you steer clear of it. Steer clear of the tourist traps, they're overpriced. This verb uses imagery from driving to advise caution. When returning home, you come back or get back. I got back from my trip last night. And after traveling, you might unwind from the journey, meaning to relax. It took me a day to unwind after the hectic trip. While unwind isn't a phrasal verb in the traditional sense, it's a useful verb for the post-travel phase. For daily movements, you pop out briefly, meaning to leave quickly for a short time. I need to pop out to the store for milk. Or you drop by someone's place, meaning to visit informally. I'll drop by your house later. These verbs add fluency to descriptions of minor movements. Incorporating these into your language will make your travel stories dynamic. Instead of I started my trip, say I set off on my trip. Instead of I explored the city, try I looked around the city. Practice by recounting a recent journey. When did you set off? Did you run into any problems? How did you unwind? And here we are, at the final stretch of our journey through the vibrant world of advanced phrasal verbs. It feels like just yesterday that I was sharing my story of feeling lost in that London pub, realizing that true fluency wasn't about big words, but about mastering these powerful little combinations. Now, after delving into everything from interpersonal dynamics to business negotiations, from the nuances of emotion to the rhythms of travel, you have built a formidable toolkit. But this isn't an end, it's a beginning. The real magic happens when you step out of the learning phase and weave these verbs into the very fabric of your daily English. I want to leave you with a final, crucial insight. Fluency isn't a destination you arrive at, it's a path you walk on every day, and phrasal verbs are your most reliable companions on that path. Let's take a moment to reflect on the ground we've covered. We started by breaking down the logic behind particles, how up suggests completion, down implies reduction, and through conveys perseverance. We tackled the grammar of separability, learning that you can turn an offer down but you must look after a friend. We explored the fascinating multiplicity of meanings, understanding that context is the key that unlocks whether take-up means to start a hobby or to occupy space. We then drilled down into specific domains, using piece together for analysis, but heads for conflict, catch on for trends, get across for communication, face up to for challenges, stumble upon for discovery, put off for procrastination, cheer up for emotions, show up for social events, follow up for business, and set off for travel. This systematic approach was designed to move you from understanding to application. Now, the most important step, making these verbs your own. This requires active, not passive, practice. Don't just go over these lists, act on them. Here is my final piece of advice: aim for frequency, not perfection. You won't use every phrasal verb correctly the first time, and that's okay. The goal is to phase out the hesitation and phase in confident experimentation. Try out one new phrasal verb each day. Jot it down in a sentence you might actually use. Say it out loud. Perhaps today you decide on using way up in a decision-making conversation. Tomorrow, you point out an observation using bring up. This consistent, low-pressure practice is what builds up muscle memory. Immerse yourself in environments where phrasal verbs flow naturally. Listen out for them in podcasts, movies, and conversations. Pay attention to how native speakers slip them into dialogue with ease. When you hear one you recognize, take note of the context. This passive absorption works together with your active practice to solidify your understanding. Remember, you are not just learning vocabulary, you are learning a new way of thinking. You are learning to see the world through the lens of these expressive combinations. I want to thank you for sticking with me through this comprehensive guide. Your commitment to brushing up on your English and pushing through the challenges is commendable. You have now armed yourself with the essential phrasal verbs for advanced fluency. So, go ahead and take on the world of English conversation with newfound confidence. Keep up the great work, and never stop building on what you've learned here. The journey to mastery is lifelong, and you are well on your way. Carry on!